Hey guys, welcome to Get Busy Watching. I'm your host, Honest Dan. Let's talk movies. In commemoration of the upcoming Wonder Woman 1984, I'm binging the DCEU films, starting with Man of Steel up to Shazam. I've already done a Birds of Prey review. Man, I remember being so hyped for this movie. In fact, I remember this being my favorite movie of 2013. Actually, that year, hell, that weekend was probably one of the best of my life, because right after seeing Man of Steel, which at the time I absolutely loved, I went to a Two Steps from Hell concert. That was a fucking great time. But of course, regarding the movie, the internet had a lot to say about it, and not all of it good. Over the years, I have seen people, give their take on Man of Steel, and I have seen it in a different light. But now, it's time to revisit the movie after taking some time away from it, and see if I still like it as much as I used to. Let's kick this sucker off with the very start of the DCEU. This is my honest opinion of Man of Steel. Clark Kent, played by Henry Cavill, has done his best to keep his true identity a secret, that identity being Kal-El, an alien from the now extinct planet Krypton. However, his secret is revealed early when the last survivors of Krypton arrive on Earth, led by the militaristic madman General Zod, played by Michael Shannon. Zod's only intention is to rebuild Krypton, and plans to do that by first wiping out mankind. This is a mixed bag. There are times when I'm like, yes, this is the Superman movie I have always wanted. But when it's not those times, the best way I can put it is, this was once a very simple puzzle, but then pieces from another puzzle are just randomly thrown in an attempt to create a bigger, more complex picture, and ultimately just looks less impressive. Here's what continues to work for me: the action. I will never understand people's hate for the sheer wanton destruction. It was in the cartoon and we never batted an eyelash. Yes, I remember how the marketing went. This was supposed to be the Batman Begins for Superman, a hyper-realistic take on Superman, have super intelligent conversations, and be a realistic look into how we would really perceive Superman if he really existed. But this movie had plenty of moments where it squashes those marketing promises well before we got to see that big ol' S on Superman's chest. So with that said, with so many things getting destroyed, I was quite beside myself. This is the kind of action I really needed in my Superman movie. I will never be tired of it. In fact, a lot of the visuals still kind of work for me. The way that Jor-El explains Clark's past with the holodeck technology thing, I mean, yeah, the effects are certainly dated now, but honestly that kind of works to its advantage. It still looks pretty cool. The suits redesign. Thank God, no more trunks. It's been an outdated look for superheroes for decades. Even as a kid, I could never take that look seriously. Even less so now as an adult. While I concede that the opening for Krypton is a little too long, 20 minutes, I would be less offended by that runtime if it was filled with stuff that I didn't find interesting. I liked the inner conflict that the Kryptonians had. Failed leadership leading to ruin, and the people suffer for it. I think that's something anyone can relate to. The subtle implication of the relationship between Zod and Jor-El, the action and visuals. Sure, a lot of it could have been trimmed down, and we'll get to that, but for the most part, I liked it. I love the moral ambiguity stuff in Clark's childhood. particularly the back-to-back scenes with Jonathan Kent, saying that maybe Clark should have let those kids die in the bus crash in order to keep his secret. I mean, he's not wrong when he says that his very existence would call into question a ton of sciences, religion would be shaken up, and who knows how many other variables that haven't been considered. And when Clark does learn about the truth, that he's an alien, frankly, it's a powerhouse performance by both Kevin Costner and Dylan Sprayberry. But now it's time to acknowledge the negatives and what no longer works for me. We'll start easy with Amy Adams as Lois Lane. Now don't get me wrong, I love Amy Adams. She's been in some fantastic films over the years, but she is just not Lois Lane. First off, Lois Lane is a brunette, not a redhead. But fine. Her identity should not be in her hair color. And if Adams was given a character that was pitch perfect Lois Lane writing, maybe the hair could be forgiven. So, with that in mind, let's forget I even mentioned the hair color. Let's stay focused on the thing that matters most, Lois's character. Or rather, the lack of it. From the cartoon to the '78 Superman movie, Lois is a cunning bulldozer of a reporter. She's got a strong personality. She's willing to throw herself into danger to get the truth out. But she's at her core a good person and doesn't compromise her values and beliefs. Her signature personality is how commanding she is. I said this in my Superman Man of Tomorrow review. When Lois talks, people listen. She's the best reporter there is. She's smart, she's savvy, and when she enters the room, everyone freaking knows it. Amy Adams just doesn't have that vibe. Yes, you have that dick measuring line in the beginning, but that's almost literally the only time I saw Lois Lane. After that, Lois is just too soft-spoken. She's not assertive and spends most of her time just looking scared or worried. This is obviously not the fault of Adams, but rather the writing. If Hillbilly Elegy is any indication, she can play a hardened, tough, and angry character if given the right material. But none of that comes through in this movie. It almost would have been beneficial to make this character someone completely new. A gender-swapped Jimmy Olsen almost makes more sense than a Lois Lane. It also doesn't help that the romantic relationship between Lois and Superman is really forced and virtually non-existent. But now, for the more egregious offenses, the Jesus symbolism. Wrong God, Zach! The big DC heroes have always had a fun connection to Greek mythology. Batman is like Hades, Flash is like Hermes, you know, stuff like that. Not sure if that was intentional or if that ended up being a fan-made connection that DC rolled with, but basically, Superman is not Jesus. I have no idea why this was chosen, to make Superman a god, a religious figure, what with all the symbolism around. That's not who Superman should be. Yes, at times, Jor-El says that he's supposed to be a symbol of all that's good with humanity, guide them to a brighter future, no matter what kind of pitfalls they have. But in the beginning, he also says that he'll be like a god to them, which again, shouldn't be the point of Superman. I've grown to really hate this. But the most heartbreaking thing, remember when I used that puzzle analogy? Here's what I mean. Man of Steel is overly complicated. A solid, albeit simple story is in here. Superman is supposed to be a positive force to help guide humanity to a brighter future. He's not sure if humanity is ready to know that he exists yet. Zod wants to save Krypton, but his own people let him down, so he wants to rebuild them by terraforming Earth. And Superman has to choose if he wants to stand by humanity or Krypton. But no, we have to throw in the Codex. The genetic makeup of all Kryptonians or whatever the fuck that was. What the fuck are you talking about, movie? Why can't this just be about Zod wanting to rebuild Krypton on the ashes of humanity? Why did Zod have to have this Hitler complex with lines like degenerative bloodlines? You know how this could have been fixed? Imagine this. Zod and Jor-El were once friends, but had differing beliefs on how Krypton should have been ran. When Zod met Kal-El for the first time, he should have been legitimately happy to see him, the grown son of his best friend, and also just simply seeing another Kryptonian after their entire race blew up wouldn't hurt either. Teach him what it means to be a Kryptonian, teach him their faults, and really bank on Superman coming to see his way of thinking. But because Superman takes it upon himself to save humanity, Zod takes this like a betrayal, and that's why they fight. Really make Zod a sympathetic character, and the hero of this story in his own right. Really make us question if Superman would actually side with Zod, create this emotional bond between the two men. I feel like this was such a missed opportunity. You get hints of this just before Zod and Superman fight, but that's not what this movie leans on as a whole. Ironically, by throwing in this extra bit of degenerative bloodlines mentality, you effectively make him more simplified and less relatable. And by throwing in the Codex, you make the story less understandable. Overall, yes, this movie is not great. I see why people don't like it. The heavy-handed religious symbolism, Lois Lane and Zod's portrayal, the poor writing, the complicated story, it can be a bit much. But I also see why people love it. The action is pitch perfect. Henry Cavill as Superman is a dead ringer. Some of the scenes are played out beautifully, and I do enjoy many of the ideas that the story presents about Superman's impact on the world. I agree and disagree with both sides. At the end of the day, I like it more than I don't. The flaws do prevent me from repeat viewings, especially in comparison to later DCEU films. Still, I do think MOS laid down a pretty solid foundation for Warner Brothers to build from. Had they learned their lessons about the flaws of this movie, I think a sequel would have been downright great. But, we'll get to that shit. For now, my honest rating for Man of Steel, a strong 3 out of 5. This will also be the starting point for my rankings of the DCEU films. Stay tuned for my next reviews and we'll see how I rank them from worst to best. By virtue of being my first review of the DCEU films, Man of Steel takes the #1 spot. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy out there. Please wear a mask if you go out. Hope to see you soon.